Hi, welcome back everybody. Part two. We're going to do some swatches on water, ocean water, lake water, rivers. Let's get into it. Let's get into the mixing of colors, tonal values, and in a convenient method of doing swatches, we taped off and sectioned off some paper here. We used just to catch up in case you did not see part one, we have a stencil which we used, a Fisker's stencil, rectangular shape, and then we did four shapes on watercolor paper, nice good quality watercolor paper. I use mostly Fabriano or Arches for videos and for finished paintings, and sometimes I'll use less expensive paper for practice and so forth, but for my videos here I always use good paper. And so we section this off with pencil first, four rectangles. Then we just taped it off with some good artist tape, and we're going to go in and do our swatches. These swatches are great. You can actually, the reason I'm putting the tape on here is it makes a beautiful border around each swatch. And then what we can do is when we're done, we peel up once it's completely dry. Once the paints are completely dry, we pull off the tape, and then we can label each of these swatches ocean, and then we can put the colors. We can take a pen or a pencil or a magic marker and just put underneath ocean, and then we could put like the names of the colors underneath. I have a magic marker somewhere here. Let's see. So we could say ocean, and then we could say this was I'd abbreviate. I would say abbreviating is kind of fun to do with watercolors because sometimes all the names of the paints can be, to save time, we just say, all right, so that's French ultramarine blue. Then we can say cobalt BL if we want even to. You can abbreviate as much as you want. Once you get used to your watercolors and the names of your paints, you can just make them as brief as possible. A lot of great artists in history as well as today, it's a common thing watercolorists might go out and sit down in front of a scene, a cityscape, a streetscape, a park scene, whatever, and they might do some painting, and then they'll just put down the colors they see when they're out in that area, so that they know when they come back to the studio, maybe to do a larger painting or a finished painting, let's say, they can remember back and say, oh, I remember, yeah, the sky was a cerulean blue that day with a little bit of orange at the horizon, and the field was like a nice sap green with mixes of some yellows, some golds, some yellow ochre. So when we do these swatches, we can just label the colors we use so that when we go back and look at these, we can, if we have a painting a month from now and we say, oh, I'm going to paint an ocean, I go, oh yeah, that's right, I made swatches on oceans. So let me go back, grab this out of the drawer or the file or wherever we have it stored, or maybe pinned up on the wall, taped up on the wall. And we say right away, oh, that's right, I use French ultramarine blue, cobalt blue. I use some raw sienna for the sand. So you can kind of do some fun things like that, labeling swatches, what colors you used, what brush you might have used too as well. You might have a favorite brush you have that you like to use, so you can make sure you capture what brush you might have used, because you can get different effects with different brushes. So here we're going to continue on, and we're going to just maybe take our pencil and we'll just mark out a nice. I'll go about 3/4 of the way on this here. I'm going to make a pencil line across there. You might not be able to see that, I'm not sure. And then I'll just make maybe some grass and weeds and things. So we're going to make this like a lake kind of look. And then maybe here there's some more weeds and grasses here. And then here we'll make the lake water. So I could put, W for water here, and then yellow, YG for yellow grass, and then up here some dark grass. So when you're doing watercolors, you can make notes really lightly with your pencil if you want to keep track of what colors you're going to use. And as long as it's super light, and you think it'll be dark enough to paint over top of it. You probably wouldn't put any notes in an area where it might be like white paper, although you could always erase it. If it's light pencil, it wouldn't be a problem. So using pencil, you can always have notes on your watercolors. Just be very careful when you're using really light colors, like let's say a really light blue or light yellow or a light red. But if you're using darker colors, you can make notes on your paper. So I did some notes here on my paper to remind me of what colors to use. And we'll go right in and we'll grab our palette, our paint, our brushes. I'm using my standard palette. I always use, and I spritz some water on there just to reactivate some of the colors. It's pretty moist. It's moist paint, squeezed out of the tube. And we'll go in and we'll do some. So I have some color already left from our first part 1 video. Then I'm going to go in and get some burnt umber here, and maybe I'm going to work into some darker. I'm going to work into some Payne's gray, and then maybe some green, Payne's gray and Viridian green, and some burnt umber there too. And some blue. Alright, so we're just mixing some colors here, and we're going to get in and do some nice lake looking colors. Lakes are shallow, water tends to be darker, and it depends too on what time of day it is, so you're always remembering that you have different times of day. I'll make this section over here a little lighter, and over here's a little darker. Maybe I can go a little darker over here too. Some more blue here. Okay. Alright, so that's kind of like my lake color, fun to do. I just mixed some darker colors, some greens, some blues, a little bit of burnt umber, some brown earthy colors, some black. I used some Payne's gray over here maybe, and up here a little bit too. And then maybe I can add a little bit of maybe some raw sienna up along here, because we're going to start to work to do some yellow grass here, and we'll do some raw sienna and yellow ochre. Notice I'm going to keep a white line of dry paper in between these two sections so that it doesn't get all bleeding together and making blossoms and blooms of paint. So you'll notice sometimes it's good to keep a little bit of a white border between two sections that you're working on, and then once it dries a little more, then you can go back in and touch up that white line. That helps a lot if you're trying to move through a painting at a good pace, and you don't want to get bogged down with waiting for different sections to dry. You can kind of work around the painting. You probably hear some watercolor artists talk about that, working around a painting. In essence, what that means is when you're working on a painting, sometimes there's areas that might be quite a bit wet with a lot of paint and water, like here. And then if you go up to this section here, in a sense you're working around the painting because you're working around this wetter area with another line of paint. And so once I'm done here, I'll probably go up even higher up on the painting. I'll add a little more cadmium yellow there to the yellow ochre. Maybe a little cadmium red. Just for some color variety. Okay, so we got some bushes there, some yellow grassy type stuff, and then we'll go in and do some more Payne's gray and a little bit of Viridian and a little bit of burnt umber mixed in there just to gray it down a little bit, and then we'll do some bushes up here. Now here for the grass and the bushes, let's just do a little bit of couple splashes. Let's change up those colors. Let's try to always modulate our colors. You know, change them up. Don't keep the, let's not keep the same color going the whole time across this background here. So let's always add a little bit of burnt umber over here. Maybe lighten it up a little bit. So we'll make it lighter here. So these would be like kind of trees and bushes in the back. And I'm trying to stick with the same colors that I've been using going along here. I'm trying to keep it feeling like some trees and bushes back there with some little flicks of things. All right, that's pretty good. These are just color swatches. We're just having fun. So this is a lake. And now I'll remove that white piece of paper, that white little bit of paper there, just to kind of blend these two. And I might even make a little line across here. I'll wait till that dries. I'll make a line across there to pretend that that's the line of the edge of the water where it meets the grass over here, and then this will be the reflection underneath it. So I'm going to, in essence, I'm going to try to split this yellow part, yellow grassy area here in half, so that it looks like the reflection into the water. And we should be good. So that's kind of a lake type feel, darker water, more greens and browns in there, for that kind of lake type feel. And then maybe we can do some like some waves. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we could do some waves. So now we can go back in, and I'm using the same colors. And since we're doing smaller swatches, I can leave my paint on the palette without too much of a worry. If we were using a larger painting here or a larger swatch, we would probably have to clean this up a little bit, but we're okay now because we still have some good fresh clean color here. And then maybe we'll just make some waves. So maybe this could be some ocean waves, and maybe that's just all ocean here. And this can be really fun. This is really simple. These are kind of like just getting the feel for the waves. Kind of just moving the brush the way the waves would go, the way the waves move, and the flow of the water in the ocean. And I'm just kind of okay. So that could be some nice ocean waves. A little bit of green in there. I put in a little bit of Viridian green. Same thing here. I'll put a little bit of Viridian green in all of this here, just to kind of make sure it all blends together nicely, the colors. I could add some French ultramarine blue and some cerulean, just to get a little different variation in color maybe. And that looks good. And then again, we leave some of these whites. Let's leave some white of the paper here for like the maybe where the light is striking the waves and things on the ocean. And that can be a nice little feel of some ocean water. And then maybe we can put a boat in here, but it's just an idea of the water and the colors, the ocean colors on the ocean, the greens and the blues. And you can get in and do some darker. You can go in, add some darker areas, change some tonal values, make some areas darker and lighter. You can wait till it dries and go over do another glazing of the darker colors. Darker colors will tend to be closer by. Up here would be the darker closer, and then as it goes way in the distance, it would be a little bit lighter up top where it's further away. All right, so let's come back. We'll do a part 3. We'll do one more swatch, and then we'll maybe try to do a little touch-ups to some of these other ones.